Welcome back, GRD132 Typography 1 to part 3 of our ex12 Web Type RWD responsive web design. We're going to do a little coloring here, and then we'll just do some media queries which will adjust basically the line length as the window size changes. And it's doing that now, but we're even going to make it more apparent, especially when we get to this size. We don't want so much margin over there. We want the line length to kind of go over a little bit here, so almost be about like right here. So we're going to do that. We'll throw a little bit of color in just to make it look a little nicer, and then we'll do that. So let's go back to our CSS, and we'll put some color in our top part. We'll just make this like a nice kind of dark blue to contrast with this kind of off-white color. And like I said, you can always change this. Just click on here. If you think it's too peachy, you could change that, but I'll go into my H1 and my P intro. Now, actually, one thing you could do, I didn't do this on my first version, and you don't necessarily have to do this, but you could go under here and put H1, comma, and then P.intro, and then put your curly braces. And that way, this will target both of those. H1 end. When you use a comma, that means end. So I'm targeting both of those, and I'm just going to put a color in here. So I'll put color and a colon. Now it's not font color, it's just color. And then I'll put a pound sign, because that starts off hex. So I'll put a pound sign, and it's coming up with 000, although it's not letting me click on this. I don't want to start with black. Well, I could start with black. I could just do 000. Let's see if that works. I'll put a semicolon. That'll work. As long as they're the same, I think that kind of abbreviates. But I'll click on here, and I'll go into the blue area and just get a nice kind of dark blue. And you can see there's a little bit of red, a little bit of green, and a lot of blue. And the fact that the numbers are lower means it's a dark blue. When you go up here, you can see the numbers get higher. So down towards 0, that's very dark. The closer you get to black, all the numbers get to like closer to 0. So I'll make a nice dark blue here, and I'll hit enter. And that'll target both of these elements. And I'll refresh. And that looks pretty good. And then maybe I'll target this with like maybe a brown color or something, just to add some warmth in there a little bit. I'll leave this black, and that would be P body, so, or BDY. And I'll just put color, and I'll do pound sign, and I could just do 000 and a semicolon, and then click on this thing, and I'll go into the kind of orangey kind of area over here on the hue slider. This is the hue, you know, the rainbow colors is kind of the hue. And I'll go down here and pick a nice warm kind of brown color. I'll hit enter and see how that looks. And I could always change it, but I'll see how it looks. And actually, I didn't want that, so let me cut this, and I'll put it up here. I wanted it with the H2, so I'll put it there, and that's okay. Refresh it, and that's what I want. And that looks pretty good. Kind of pulls out some of the color. It's like a darker version of this a little bit, so that's kind of unified. This is kind of contrasty between warm and cool. If I want a more yellowish kind of background, I could do that too, but that's okay for now. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to adjust some of this. So what I want to do is kind of get to the point where it gets so small. I want to get, you know, I'm like, that's too much margin here. So right around here. Now, how do you know how wide that is as far as the window width? If you actually right click on here and choose inspect, and then you just kind of grab this and move it a little, you should see this number show up as you move it. It won't be there all the time, but as you move it, you'll see a number, and you can see it's kind of like around 600 or so where it starts to get to the point where I want to make it more of a margin here. So that's kind of my target for now. I think I used 580 last time, but maybe around 600. We'll kind of look at that first, maybe 640, 620. You know, it looks like 620, it actually breaks the line, but that's going to change from browser to browser. It won't be exactly the same. So, you know, maybe something like that. So I'm looking at that width number, and I could close that if you need to get that out of there. You just close it up. There's a little X there. So I'm going to do that. So I'm just thinking of anything smaller than 640, 620, I want less margin, or I want the line length, instead of being 60% or whatever I have it, and what I'm talking about is this 55%. Instead of it being 55, I might want it 75 or something when it's the size for a phone. So let's focus on a phone first. So I'm going to go over here, open a new tab. I'll go to W3 Schools, and I'll go to Tutorials CSS. There's CSS. And I'll scroll down to Advanced, and you should see Responsive Design. Here's Responsive, and I'm just going to go to Media Queries. And they talk about media queries and everything, and you'll see things like max width and min width and all that kind of stuff. And they're called breakpoints, meaning this number is the breakpoint. So when it gets down to 600 pixels, something else will change. And you could go both directions. You could use max width or min width, meaning you could put it for the way it should be on a phone first. That's called mobile first. We're not doing mobile first. We're doing web first for now. But mobile first means you're kind of targeting everything for the mobile first, and then if it goes on a bigger screen, then it changes. It all depends on what's more popular, and right now probably mobile's more popular, but we'll do it for the desktop for now. So here's kind of the way it works, and you could have a whole bunch of these. We're not going to do all of these breakpoints, but I'm going to go down here, and I'll just go down to where it has typical breakpoints, and I'll just grab this first one here. And now this is kind of cut off, so what I'll do is I'll click on the try it yourself, and I'll just grab the one here right from the comment, and I'll copy this one that says for extra small devices phones, 600 and down. Now that's what we were thinking about. And you can see when it has min width, it's N up. So I'm going to stick with N down for now. So I'm going to copy this whole thing, and I'm going to go back here and go to the bottom of my CSS, and if there's any extra space here, I'll get rid of it, and I'll even put 2 spaces, and I'll leave that comment in there because that helps. It's saying 600, and it's basically N down. Now this is the declaration that happens when it goes down. So if I left this in here just for the hell of it, if I went here and refreshed, my background should turn red. I was saying it would turn red. It's only because there's an example here. Actually, if I put body here, if I targeted body, and then I went back here and I refreshed it, when it got below 600, it's going to turn the body background to red. Now, I don't want to do that. I only want to just adjust the margin, but that's what they have for their sample. So I'm going to take this out. This whole thing, I'll take it out. Now, one thing I need to point out here is when you have a media query, it's at media only screen and max width. That means N down. And I have an opening and closing curly brace. Now, everything is going to go inside those 2 curly braces. So you still will need, like if you were going to do something for P body, you would need 1, 2, and then you're always going to have these outside of there. So even just put some extra space there, just so you don't mess that up. You'll have to have even numbers. So what we're going to adjust is body. So I'm going to go up and find body, and I'm going to copy this whole body declaration. Just copy it. And I'll paste it in here. I'll paste it on the next line, and I'll kind of tab things in so they look nice. I'll tab these in. Now the nice thing here is you don't need ones that aren't going to change. Now, is the margin top going to change? I don't know. Probably not. Is the background color going to change? No. Is the margin auto? No, I'm still going to keep it centered. So I'll get rid of things I don't need. Now, maybe margin top might change. I don't know. But the width is definitely going to change. So instead of 55%, when I get down to this size, I might, and that red will go away. So let me refresh this. I might want to make the width 85%. I think that's what I use. So instead of 55, let's make it 85. And we'll keep margin top the same. We don't really need this, but it's not going to hurt anything being there. So also notice, let me move this over. That way I know this is the declaration. There's an opening, closing curly brace, and then this is the media query that has an opening, closing. Now eventually we can bring this closer. So if we put another media query here, that we don't have all that extra space. But basically you're putting media queries that kind of, this is like an if-else statement. Okay, if the max width is below 600, then do this. Then substitute this one. So body is going to it'll override the body that's up here. Or any of the things that are in here will override the ones that we have above there. Otherwise, they'll stay the same. So now I'll refresh this. And now when I get down to about 600 pixels, which is going to be about here, now you could even have it happen sooner. That's kind of a more readable margin. If this is on a phone, that would be more easy to read, that kind of margin around. And I think that looks fine going all around. And you could even do it kind of midway. You could find kind of a midway point. This is, whatever width this is. This was like going from here to here. That's about 600. So that's not a lot. So maybe around 800, you might want to put something in between. You could do that. I'll show you what you could do there. If you wanted to do something in between, I'll get rid of this. And I'll just copy this. and paste another one. And this I'll just put medium devices. And if you're not sure like where I'm getting this, if you go up here, here they have medium devices. They have 768. Now this is using min width, so I'm just going to keep it the way I have it, but you could just call it medium devices. So I'll say medium devices, and I'll just put like iPads or something. And instead of 600, I'll put it like 800. And I'll change this to 800. You can't just change the comment, you have to change the actual width here. And maybe I don't want it 85, maybe I want it maybe 75. So I have two media queries here. So it'll use this one first because once it reaches, it'll say, is it down to 600 yet? No. And then it'll move on to here. Is it down to 800? Yes. And it'll change that. So it'll find these breakpoints to hit them. So again, here's wider, and then once it hits 800, you'll see it go. There, it's going to 800. Oh, I didn't refresh it. I'm sorry about that. All right, let's refresh it and bring it in, and you'll see once we get to 800, it'll be coming up soon. There we go. See, that's about 800 right there. That's about 75% width. Looks a little better. If that was an iPad, that's pretty good. And then as we finally get down to 600, it'll go again. There. Wait, it's going from there to there. There's one, and I don't see it doing our second one. Actually, let me just check my code, make sure my code's okay. Body width 75%, margin top 800. Unless it's just such a small amount, we're going from, that's only 10%. Maybe we're just not seeing it. And maybe it's just so small. Let me refresh one more time. Because it looks like it's going there. And then it should be going again. Actually, I don't feel like it's doing my other one. Max width, 800 pix. Everything looks okay. And let me make sure that I don't have to have them in the other order. Because I said you don't, but I may be wrong. Let me make sure I have that one first. That's 75, that's 85, and I made that 800. Now they're really, 200 pixels is really close together, so let me try it again. I'll go here, I'll refresh it, I'll bring it out again, and I'll try to see it jump. There's a jump. There's a jump. Okay, so there's a jump. And there's a jump. So maybe it does have to be in that order. And that would make sense that you'd want to have it the bigger size first. So actually make sure you put the bigger amount with max width first and then move on to there. And I could try it again, see if it matters, but it's such a small amount, it's hard to see, but that looks a lot better. So I didn't mean to confuse you there in the end, but just make sure with these you have the double curly braces. You have the curly brace for body, curly brace for body. Now, I don't even need this in here. Unless we're changing this, why have more code than we need to? So I'll get rid of those. So it could look like that. And this is the medium devices, small devices. It's kind of moving down. And it appeared I was having some issue where it looked like I had to have that one first. I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't feel like trying it again to see if that's the case. But when I did it the first time, I did do the medium devices before this. So maybe it is the case. But everything looks okay. That's all we need to do for ex12. Once you do that, just change your colors, change these colors, and then make sure you have your breakpoints. This, again, this is 800, and then it's going down to 600 right there. And that would be for like phones and things like that. So that looks nice. And you could change anything. You could change background colors and the leading, even the size of headlines and stuff like that. A lot of things you can do here, but we're trying to use M's and percents so they stay pretty relative as we're going. So that's all you have to do for ex12. So then when you're done, all you have to do is you could come back here and you don't have to save anything. Just copy this, do Command C, and then when you go back to ex12, you're going to go to coursework and go down to Unit 8. This is still part of Unit 8. And just click on this link and just add a comment. And remember, from your repel part, you copied this. You could copy this. If you copy that, that's fine. But copy your repel. It's easy for me to get into your Replit account and see if you had any issues or anything. And I could certainly look at the page right away. But then when you come back here, just insert a link with the chain link, just like we do with Gravit, paste it, go down here, new window, hit save. And that's it. That's all you have to do for ex12. That's web typography. It should look like this. Again, if your colors are a little bit different, that's okay. And that's using responsive web design. If you have any problems, just give me an email. It's probably easier than putting it in a comment. Just email me and say, hey, I'm having a problem with this, and I could take a look at your, as long as I have your username, I could go into your Repel and check it out and see where you have any problems. Sometimes people mess up things with curly braces and semicolons and all these kind of things here. Lots of stuff to mess up. There's lots of stuff to mess up in your HTML, but hopefully those Emmet shortcuts that we did in the beginning make that a little bit easier. So that's ex12. Hope you enjoyed that using web typography and responsive web design.